Hey there, you're looking kind of cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out all my other socials. Enjoy. The old house made loud creaking sounds as the sun shined hot outside. Inside, two brothers played, showing what summer felt like when you are a child. Marcus, the younger brother, was happy because he won. "Bam! Your army is finished!" he yelled, knocking over a line of toy soldiers. Jonathan, the older brother, was not upset. He put the soldiers back in place, but his hands shook a little, which was new. He did not talk about it. "Marcus, you are very good at this. Want to play again? Maybe later." Jonathan stood up and almost fell. He held on to their father's leather chair, his hand tight on the dark brown arm. "You okay?" Marcus got up fast, making the toy soldiers roll across the red and gold rug. "Just tired." Jonathan tried to smile, but it did not look real. "I think I'll rest for a while." Days blurred into weeks. The tremors worsened. Their mother, a nurse at the county hospital, scheduled appointment after appointment. Specialists in gray suits and white coats examined Jonathan, ran tests, spoke in hushed tones outside his bedroom door. Words like degenerative and manageable floated through the walls like ghosts. By autumn, Jonathan spent most days in bed. His room, once filled with baseball trophies and model airplanes, transformed into a makeshift medical ward. An adjustable bed replaced his twin mattress. Pill bottles crowded the nightstand where comic books once lived. Marcus visited every day after school, homework forgotten in his backpack. He'd sit cross-legged on the floor beside Jonathan's bed, updating him on the mundane dramas of 7th grade. Tommy Chen got detention for putting a frog in Mrs. Henderson's desk drawer. Marcus picked at a loose thread on his jeans. She screamed so loud the principal came running. Jonathan laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. His blonde hair, grown long during months of illness, fanned across the white pillow. Their mother had offered to cut it, but Jonathan always refused. "Poor frog," Jonathan said, probably more scared than Mrs. Henderson. "Definitely." Marcus glanced at his brother's hands, noticed the pearl-pink nail polish. "Did Mom paint your nails?" A flush crept across Jonathan's pale cheeks. "I did it myself." "Oh." Marcus studied the careful application, only a few smudges betraying unsteady hands. "Looks nice." "Really?" Hope flickered in Jonathan's voice. "Yeah, better than when Cousin Beth tried to paint mine at Christmas. Got more on my fingers than the actual nails." They fell into comfortable silence. Outside, October wind rattled the windows, sending brown leaves dancing past the glass. Marcus noticed other changes in his brother's room. A silk scarf draped over the lamp, casting rose-colored shadows. A bottle of lavender perfume on the dresser. One of their mother's romance novels peeking from under the bed. "Can I tell you something?" Jonathan's words came out barely above a whisper. "Always. Sometimes." Jonathan twisted the edge of his blanket between thin fingers. "Sometimes I put on Mom's clothes. When everyone's asleep." Marcus processed this information with the adaptability of youth. "Does it make you feel better?" "Yes." The word escaped like a sigh of relief. "It makes me feel right, like myself." "Then that's good." Marcus reached up, squeezed his brother's hand. "Whatever helps." Tears rolled down Jonathan's cheeks, but he smiled through them. "You're the best brother anyone could ask for." Winter arrived with a vengeance, coating their small town in layers of ice and snow. Jonathan's condition stabilized, but didn't improve. He could walk short distances with a cane, manage basic tasks on good days. Bad days still outnumbered good. Their parents worked longer hours to cover medical bills. Marcus became Jonathan's primary companion, racing home after school to spend precious hours before dinner. They developed new rituals. Marcus would read aloud from library books, while Jonathan practiced makeup techniques learned from YouTube tutorials. "Hold still," Jonathan said one February afternoon, wielding an eyeliner pencil. He wore their mother's emerald green sweater, the color bringing out flecks of gold in his eyes. Almost done. Marcus sat perfectly still on the edge of the bed, letting his brother work. The pencil tickled, but he didn't flinch. "There." Jonathan held up a hand mirror. "Very punk rock." Marcus examined his reflection, thick black lines rimming his eyes. I look like a raccoon. A very stylish raccoon. Jonathan giggled, a sound Marcus hadn't heard in months. Want to try lipstick? Sure. They spent the afternoon experimenting with colors and techniques, Marcus learning the difference between lip gloss and lipstick, foundation and concealer. When their mother came home, she found them both sporting dramatic makeup, laughing over a shared joke. My beautiful boys, she said, setting down her purse. No judgment in her voice, only love. Dinner in 20 minutes, maybe wash your faces first? Spring brought changes. Jonathan started hormone therapy, a decision reached after long conversations with understanding doctors. The changes came slowly. Softer skin, slight shifts in body shape, emotions closer to the surface. I need to tell you something else, Jonathan said during one of their afternoon sessions. He wore a yellow sundress borrowed from their mother's closet, blonde hair now reaching past his shoulders. Something bigger than before. Marcus set down his algebra textbook. I'm listening. I'm not just sick. I mean, I am sick, but that's not... Jonathan took a shaky breath. I'm a woman. Inside. I've always been a woman. Just born in the wrong body. Okay. Marcus nodded slowly. So should I call you sister instead of brother? Fresh tears spilled down Jonathan's cheeks. You'd do that? Of course. You're still you, just the real you now. And there's more. Jonathan fidgeted with the hem of the sundress. I like men. Romantically, I mean. That makes sense, Marcus said. Since you're a woman and all. You're not disgusted? Why would I be? Marcus moved from his chair to sit beside his sibling on the bed. You're my family. Nothing changes that. They hugged, Jonathan's thin frame shaking with sobs of relief. When they pulled apart, Marcus asked, Do you want a different name? Jonathan doesn't really fit anymore. I've been thinking about that. A shy smile played at the corners of red-painted lips. Maybe Josephine? We could still call me Jo for short. Josephine. Marcus tested the name. I like it. Sophisticated. Summer arrived with thunderstorms and thick humidity. Josephine grew stronger, able to venture beyond her room for short periods. She and Marcus would sit on the front porch, watching neighbors pass by, creating elaborate backstories for strangers. See that man in the brown suit? Josephine pointed with a manicured finger. Secret agent, definitely hiding government documents in that briefcase. Nah, Marcus shook his head. Insurance salesman. Most dangerous thing in there is his lunch. One evening, as fireflies blinked in the garden, Josephine made an announcement. I've been talking to Mom and Dad about the future. Marcus felt his stomach clench. What about it? I can't keep living like this, hiding who I am. Josephine smoothed invisible wrinkles from her blue cotton skirt. But this town, people here aren't ready for someone like me. So what are you saying? I have two choices. Josephine's voice remained steady, but her hands trembled. I can stay here, keep pretending to be Jonathan in public, only be myself at home. Or I can leave, start fresh somewhere new, where nobody knows me as anything but Josephine. The words hit Marcus like cold water. Leave? But your doctors, your treatments? There are doctors in other places, cities where people like me can live openly. Josephine reached for his hand. I know it's selfish. It's not selfish. Marcus squeezed back, fighting tears. You deserve to be happy, to be yourself all the time, not just behind closed doors. You understand why I have to go? Yeah? The word came out choked. When? Next month. Mom's been helping me arrange everything. New documents, a place to stay with her cousin in Seattle until I get settled. They spent those final weeks creating memories. Marcus helped Josephine pack, carefully folding dresses and skirts into suitcases. They took photos together, Josephine finally comfortable being captured as her true self. On her last night, the family had dinner together, everyone pretending their eyes weren't red from crying. Promise you'll write, Marcus said at the train station, clinging to his sister. Every week. Josephine wore a conservative gray dress with a matching jacket, blonde hair pinned up under a small hat. She looked elegant, adult, ready for her new life. Take care of Mom and Dad for me. Take care of yourself. The train whistle blew. One last hug, then Josephine climbed aboard. Marcus watched until the train disappeared around a bend, taking his sister toward a future where she could finally breathe freely. Letters came as promised, filled with stories of Seattle life. Josephine found work as a bookkeeper, made friends who only knew her as herself. She wrote about coffee shops and art galleries, about the freedom of walking down streets where nobody stared or whispered. Then, after 6 months, the letters stopped. Marcus wrote frantically, sent telegrams, even convinced his parents to hire a private investigator. Every lead turned cold. Josephine had vanished, leaving behind an empty apartment and worried friends who knew little about her past. Years passed. Marcus grew from gangly teenager to young man. He attended college, studied journalism, always wondering if each blonde woman on the street might be his lost sister. His parents aged, their grief settling into the spaces between words. They kept Josephine's room exactly as she'd left it, a shrine to both the son they'd lost and the daughter they'd barely had time to know. Marcus returned to their hometown after graduation, taking a job at the local newspaper. The old Victorian house felt empty with just him and his parents, too many ghosts in the walls. He threw himself into work, covering town meetings and local events, building a reputation for thoughtful reporting. 9 years, 10 months, and 17 days after Josephine boarded that train, Marcus sat at his desk, editing an article about the upcoming Harvest Festival. The bell above the newspaper office door chimed. "Be right with you," he called, not looking up from his typewriter. "No rush." The voice was warm honey over gravel, familiar yet changed. "I can wait." Marcus's fingers froze over the keys. Slowly, he raised his head. She stood by the door, more beautiful than memory allowed. Her blonde hair, the exact shade he remembered, fell in elegant waves to her shoulders. She wore a burgundy dress with tiny pearl buttons, a wedding ring catching the afternoon light. Behind her, 2 young boys peered around her skirts with curious eyes. "Joe?" The nickname escaped before he could stop it. "Hi, baby brother." Tears tracked down her carefully made-up face. "I'm sorry I was gone so long." Marcus stumbled from behind his desk, crossed the room in 3 strides, pulled her into a fierce embrace. She smelled like vanilla and roses, felt solid and real and alive. I thought you were..." "I know, I'm sorry." She pulled back, cupping his face with soft hands. "There's so much to explain. Mom and Dad? I called them this morning. We're having dinner there tonight." She glanced back at the boys. "If that's okay, I know it's a lot, showing up with a family in tow." "Family?" Marcus looked at the children, seeing Josephine's kindness in their shy smiles. "You're married?" 3 years now. Robert's parking the car." Pride colored her voice. "And these are our sons. We adopted them last year. Boys, come meet your Uncle Marcus." The children stepped forward, the older one extending a small hand. "I'm Timothy. I'm 7. And I'm David." The younger boy bounced on his toes. "I'm 5 3/4." Marcus shook their hands solemnly, his throat tight with emotion. "It's wonderful to meet you both." "Mommy talks about you all the time," Timothy said. "She says you're the best brother in the whole world." "She does?" Marcus looked at Josephine, who nodded through fresh tears. "Every day. They know all our old stories. The soldier games, the makeup sessions, everything." A car door slammed outside. A tall man with kind eyes entered, worry creasing his forehead. "Everything all right, darling? You were crying when I..." He stopped, taking in the scene. "You must be Marcus." "Robert." Josephine linked arms with both men. "My husband. Robert, my brother." They shook hands, Robert's grip firm and sincere. "She's told me everything about you. Thank you for being there for her when she needed it most." "Family's family," Marcus managed. "Always." "That's why we're back," Josephine said. "We bought the old Morrison place on Elm Street. Robert got transferred to the bank here, and I missed home, missed you and Mom and Dad, missed being part of this place, even if some people won't understand." "Some people never do." Marcus thought of all the changes their quiet town had seen, all the small minds and big hearts. But the ones who matter will. "Mommy, I'm hungry." David tugged at Josephine's dress. "You said Grandma makes cookies." "She does." Josephine smoothed his dark hair. "The best chocolate chip cookies in the state. Should we go see if she has any ready?" The boys cheered. As they walked toward the door, Marcus caught Josephine's arm. The letters stopped. We searched everywhere. Pain flickered across her features. I got very sick, spent months in the hospital. By the time I recovered, I was ashamed of disappearing, of making you worry. Then I met Robert, and life moved so fast. Before I knew it, years had passed, and I didn't know how to come back. But you did come back. I had to. The boys deserved to know their grandparents, their uncle, and She touched his cheek again. I missed my baby brother. Missed him something fierce. They walked together through streets both changed and changeless, Josephine pointing out familiar landmarks to her sons. Mrs. Henderson still taught at the school, though her hair had gone silver. The drugstore had new owners, but the same cracked bell above the door. Some neighbors stared, recognition dawning as they processed Josephine's familiar features in her new presentation. Others simply waved, accepting the beautiful woman with the warm smile as another addition to their evolving community. The Victorian house looked exactly as Marcus remembered from childhood, maybe a little more weathered, the paint peeling slightly at the edges. Their mother must have been watching from the window because the door flew open before they reached the porch. "My baby!" She rushed down the steps, still in her nursing scrubs, arms wide. "My beautiful girl!" Josephine fell into the embrace, both women sobbing. Their father appeared in the doorway, older and grayer, but smiling through his own tears. The boys hung back, suddenly shy, until their grandmother noticed them. "And who are these handsome young men?" She knelt to their level, the same way she'd comforted her own children years ago. "I'm Timothy, and he's David," the older boy said. "Are you really our grandma?" "I really am, sweetheart, and I've been waiting to meet you for so long." She opened her arms, and both boys rushed in, won over by the warmth they'd inherited through love rather than blood. Dinner stretched long into evening, stories flowing like wine. Josephine told them about Seattle, about meeting Robert at a charity auction, where they'd both bid on the same painting. Robert shared how he'd fallen for the brilliant, kind woman who quoted obscure poetry and made him laugh until his sides ached. The boys chattered about their new school, their new house, their excitement about having grandparents just a few blocks away. "You look happy," Marcus said, finding Josephine alone on the porch as the night wound down. Inside, Robert helped their mother with dishes, while their father taught the boys card tricks. "I am happy." She'd changed into comfortable slacks and a soft pink blouse, but her posture remained elegant. "Happier than I ever thought possible." "I'm glad you found your place." "I found more than that." She leaned against his shoulder, the way she had when they were children. "I found myself. But I never stopped missing this. Missing you." They sat in companionable silence, watching stars appear in the darkening sky. The same stars they'd wished on as children, when the future seemed both impossible and inevitable. "The boys are lucky to have you," Marcus said finally. "They saved me as much as I saved them." Josephine's voice grew soft. "After everything, I thought I'd never have a family of my own. Then Robert came along, and suddenly anything seemed possible. Even coming home? Especially coming home." She straightened, fixing him with green eyes that held all their shared history. "This is where I began, where you helped me take those first steps toward who I really am. I want my sons to grow up here, to understand that family isn't about blood or conventional definitions. It's about love and acceptance and showing up for each other." A small hand tugged at Marcus's sleeve. David stood there, chocolate smeared around his mouth. "Uncle Marcus? Grandpa says you still have all Mommy's old toys. Can we play soldiers tomorrow?" Marcus glanced at Josephine, who smiled and nodded. "I think that can be arranged. Your mom was pretty good at strategy." "Was not," Josephine protested. "You won every single game." "Only because you let me." David looked between them, processing this new information about his elegant mother. Mommy played with boy toys? Sometimes people play with all kinds of toys, Josephine said carefully. What matters is having fun and using your imagination. Okay, David seemed satisfied with this answer. Can we have ice cream now? If Grandma says yes. The boys scampered inside, leaving the siblings alone again. Down the street, porch lights flickered on one by one, the town settling into its evening rhythm. Thank you, Josephine said suddenly, for understanding, for seeing me even when I couldn't see myself, for never making me feel wrong or broken or... You were never any of those things. Marcus cut her off. You were just my big sister, figuring things out. We all have to figure things out. Not everyone gets a little brother to help them do it. Not everyone gets a big sister brave enough to become herself. They went inside together, rejoining the family that had grown and changed, but never broken. The boys had conquered their grandfather at cards and moved on to demanding stories. Their grandmother obliged, telling tales of their mother's childhood, carefully edited but truthful in all the ways that mattered. Later, as Robert gathered sleeping children and coats, Josephine made plans with their parents. Sunday dinners, holiday celebrations, ordinary moments that build a life. She'd call them tomorrow, visit the day after. The years of absence would fade, replaced by presence and proximity and the simple joy of being together. Marcus walked them to their car, helped buckle drowsy boys into the back seat. Robert shook his hand again, promised they'd have him over for dinner soon. The boys mumbled sleepy goodbyes, already dreaming of tomorrow's adventures. Josephine hugged him one last time, fierce and protective. I love you, baby brother. Always have, always will. Love you too, Joe. Welcome home. He watched their taillights disappear down the familiar street, then turned back to the house. His parents waited on the porch, arms around each other, faces bright with the particular joy of prayers answered in unexpected ways. She looks good, his mother said. Happy, whole. She is. Marcus climbed the steps to join them. She really is. Inside, evidence of the evening scattered across surfaces. Coffee cups and dessert plates, toys Timothy had pulled from the attic, photographs spread on the coffee table. Pictures of two brothers who became a brother and sister, whose love transcended biology and social expectations, who'd found their way back to each other across years and miles and transformations. Marcus picked up one photo, taken that last summer before Josephine left. She wore their mother's yellow sundress. He sported his habitual jeans and t-shirt. They sat on the porch swing, her arm around his shoulders, both smiling at something beyond the camera's view. He'd thought it captured an ending, but now he understood it had been a beginning. The first glimpse of the woman his sister would become, the family she'd build, the love that would sustain them through separation and reunion. Tomorrow the boys would come to play. Josephine would stop by between errands, stealing moments to reconnect. Robert would join them for Sunday dinner, fitting seamlessly into rhythms established before his time. The town would adjust, as towns do, expanding to accommodate new definitions of family and identity. But tonight, Marcus simply stood in his childhood home, grateful for sisters who find their truth and brothers who bear witness, for parents who choose love over convention, for children who see with hearts unclouded by prejudice. Grateful most of all for second chances and the courage to take them, for the journey home that leads not to where we started, but to where we were always meant to be. Outside, summer lightning flickered on the horizon, promising storms and renewal. Inside, the Victorian house settled into sleep, holding its secrets and revelations with equal grace, ready for whatever transformations tomorrow might bring.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my other socials if you want more content, early access, behind the scenes, and more. All links down below.